Evelyn was standing in the living room, staring at a small plastic stick in her hand. It was a pregnancy test. Two pink lines showed on the stick, and Evelyn felt her breath stop for a moment. Her hands gripped the test tightly, and the plastic pressed into her skin, but she didn't care. The room felt heavy, like the air was too thick to breathe. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. "This can't be real," she whispered to herself, trying to stay calm. But the panic inside her chest was growing. Evelyn's mind raced as she thought about her family. She had always worked hard to keep things peaceful and safe for them. But now, it felt like everything was falling apart, and she didn't know where to start fixing it. She called out loudly, "Sophia." Her voice echoed down the hallway. There was no answer. She tried again, even louder this time. "Sophia, come here now." Finally, there was a sound of soft footsteps, and Sophia appeared in the doorway. She looked pale and nervous, her big eyes wide with fear. Seeing her daughter looking so scared made Evelyn's heart ache with both anger and sadness. "How could this happen?" "Sit down," Evelyn said firmly, her voice shaking a little. She placed the pregnancy test on the coffee table. Sophia looked at it, and her face went white. She stood still like a statue. "Mama," Sophia whispered, her voice barely audible, trembling with fear. "Sit down," Evelyn repeated, this time even sharper. Sophia sat down slowly, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Evelyn could hear the clock ticking and her own heart pounding in her chest. Evelyn stared at her daughter. She began noticing things she hadn't before. Sophia had been wearing loose clothes for weeks, clothes that hid her slim figure. At first, Evelyn thought it was just a phase, a teenage habit, but now it made sense. Sophia had also been quiet lately, staying in her room more, skipping meals. Her body had changed slightly, too, and Evelyn had ignored it. Until now. "How long?" Evelyn finally asked, breaking the silence. Her voice was cold, and her eyes were fixed on Sophia. Sophia hesitated, her lip trembling as tears filled her eyes. 3 months, she whispered. "I'm 3 months pregnant." Evelyn's breath caught. 3 months? Her hands clenched into fists. 3 months? "And you didn't tell me?" she said, her voice rising. Sophia's tears started streaming down her face. I didn't know how, Mama. I was scared. I didn't mean for this to happen," she sobbed. Evelyn stood up quickly, pacing the room. Her mind was a whirlwind of questions. How could her 15-year-old daughter be pregnant? They had taught her about respect, faith, and being careful. How could this happen? "Scared?" Evelyn snapped, turning back to Sophia. "You were scared, so you hid it? You lied to me? To your father? How could you?" Sophia sobbed harder, her shoulders shaking. "I didn't want to disappoint you," she cried. "Well, you have," Evelyn said, her voice breaking. "This wasn't the life we wanted for you. We raised you to be better than this. We raised you in faith, in love, with rules and guidance. How could this happen?" Evelyn sat back down, her head in her hands. Then she looked up at Sophia, her eyes full of anger and hurt. "Who is it? Who did this to you?" Sophia hesitated again, her voice shaking. "Mama, I don't know. I'm not sure who the father is." Evelyn stared at her, stunned. "What do you mean you don't know?" she demanded. "How can you not know?" Sophia was trembling now. "I don't remember," she whispered. "I drank too much that night. I don't know how it happened." Evelyn's anger boiled over. "Drank?" she yelled. "You drank? After everything we taught you? You let this happen? This is not okay, Sophia. This is not okay." Before Sophia could answer, there was a sound of footsteps on the stairs. Marcus, Evelyn's husband, walked into the room, looking confused. "What's going on?" he asked, glancing between his wife and daughter. Evelyn pointed at Sophia, her voice shaking with anger. "How can I not scream? This girl, our 15-year-old daughter, is pregnant." Benjamin froze, staring at Sophia in shock. "What? How?" he muttered, barely able to speak. Evelyn turned to Sophia again, her voice sharp. "Was it your boyfriend? Is he the one? Call him. I need to talk to him right now." Sophia shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "Mama, he's been on a trip with his family for months. I haven't talked to him." Evelyn's eyes widened, but before she could say anything, Benjamin spoke, his voice quiet. I think it was me, he said, staring at the floor. For a moment, the room went silent. Evelyn's heart felt like it stopped. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. What? She whispered, her voice shaking. Benjamin looked at her, his face pale. That night, he said softly, I was drunk. I thought I was in our room. I didn't realize. Evelyn screamed, her body shaking with fury. No, you were a monster. How could you do this? Benjamin couldn't say anything. Tears filled his eyes, and he looked away. Evelyn grabbed the phone with trembling hands. I'm calling the police, she said. You are not staying in this house another second. Sophia sobbed louder, her hands covering her face. Mama, please don't, she begged. But Evelyn was already talking to the police, her voice firm and full of pain. Soon, the sound of sirens filled the street. 2 police officers walked in, and Evelyn pointed at Marcus. That's him, she said coldly. Take him away. The officers handcuffed Benjamin and led him to the door. He looked back at Sophia, his voice breaking. I'm sorry, he said. I'm so sorry. Evelyn didn't respond. She stood still, watching him leave. When the door closed, the house was silent. She sat down, her body shaking with grief. Sophia's sobs filled the room, and after a long time, Evelyn turned to her daughter. It's not your fault, she said softly, pulling Sophia into a hug. You didn't ask for this. We'll figure it out together. Months passed, and Evelyn stayed by Sophia's side. They grew closer, finding strength in each other. Sophia's love for her baby grew every day, and Evelyn slowly began to feel hope. One evening, Sophia whispered, Mama, do you think I'm doing the right thing by keeping the baby? Evelyn looked at her daughter, her heart heavy but full of love. Yes, she said softly. If that's what you want, then we will keep the baby and love it together. Sophia sat down next to Victoria, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I think, she said slowly, that God has a plan for everything. This baby didn't ask to come into the world like this, but maybe it's part of a bigger reason. I don't know why it happened, but I do know that love will guide us through. Victoria nodded, tears filling her eyes. I've thought of a name for him, she whispered. Oh. Victoria's voice was soft, her eyes kind. I want to name him Leo, Sophia said, her voice filled with fragile hope. We could call him Leo, like the little angel he is. Victoria smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. She reached out, placing her hand over Sophia's. Leo. It's perfect. Months later, the day of Leo's birth came. The labor was long and hard, but the moment Sophia heard his first cry, a wave of love and relief washed over her. Victoria stood by her side, her heart breaking at how brave and strong her daughter was. When she saw the baby, tiny, fragile, and perfect, Victoria's heart melted. The room was quiet except for the soft hospital sounds. Sophia held Leo in her arms, staring at his little face in awe. Victoria leaned in, her voice a gentle whisper. Look at him, she said, her voice shaking. He looks just like you did when you were born. Sophia smiled, tears rolling down her cheeks. Mama, she said softly, her voice trembling. There's something I need to tell you. Victoria looked at her daughter, her brow furrowing slightly. What is it, my love? Sophia hesitated, her heart pounding. She glanced at Leo, his tiny fingers wrapped around hers, and then back at her mother. I've been scared to tell you about the night Leo was conceived, she whispered, her voice breaking. Victoria felt a chill run through her, but stayed calm. She sat down beside Sophia, her hand resting on her daughter's arm. Tell me, she said gently. Whatever it is, you can tell me. Sophia took a deep breath, her voice shaking. It was the night of my 15th birthday party. Noah and I drank too much. I was so drunk that I don't remember how I got to my bed. He helped me to my room, but then someone else came in. Victoria's heart raced as she listened, piecing together the fragments of that night. She remembered Marcus's confession about being drunk and accidentally going upstairs. I never saw the face of the person in my bed, Mama, Sophia whispered, her voice cracking. I don't know who it was. A heavy silence filled the room. Victoria sat frozen, her mind spinning. Could it have been Marcus or someone else? She looked down at Leo, So innocent. We need to know the truth, Victoria said firmly. We need to do a DNA test. If Benjamin is the father, we will deal with it. But we need to know. Sophia nodded, tears streaming down her face. Victoria hugged her tightly. No matter what happens, we'll get through this together. You're not alone. As required by law, a DNA test was done, comparing Marcus's sample with Leo's. The waiting felt like forever. Finally, the results came back. Benjamin was not the father. The report was clear. There was no match. Victoria's hands shook as she read the results, relief washing over her. But confusion came too. If it wasn't Marcus, then who? The police released Benjamin immediately, and the charges were dropped. When Benjamin returned home, the house felt different. There was tension, but also hope. Victoria stood by the door as he walked in, his face tired and sad. For a moment, neither spoke. The weight of everything hung between them. Victoria stepped closer, her hands trembling. Marcus, she whispered, her voice breaking. I'm sorry. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. For the first time since everything happened, he let himself cry. He pulled Victoria into his arms, holding her tightly. I'm sorry too, he whispered. I thought I had ruined everything. I thought I was the father. Benjamin explained how he'd been so sure it was him because of the dates. I couldn't bear the thought of someone else being responsible, so I convinced myself it had to be me. But thank God I didn't do it. If I had hurt Sophia that way, I couldn't live with myself. Victoria pulled back slightly, looking into his eyes. But you didn't, Marcus. You didn't. And we're going to get through this together. Sophia, standing nearby with Leo in her arms, watched her parents. She'd wondered if her family could ever be whole again. Seeing her parents forgive each other gave her hope. Sophia, Benjamin whispered, turning to his daughter. Can I hold him? Sophia's breath caught. She looked at Leo's peaceful face and nodded. Of course, she said softly, placing the baby in his arms. Benjamin held Leo for the first time. His hands trembled as he cradled the tiny baby, his heart filled with love and gratitude. Thank you, God, he whispered, for keeping me from doing something terrible. If I had, I could never forgive myself. Sophia watched, tears in her eyes. For the first time in forever, she felt peace. She stepped forward, and Benjamin pulled her into the embrace, holding his daughter and grandson close. Victoria joined them, wrapping her arms around them. For the first time since the nightmare began, their family felt whole again. After a few moments, Benjamin pulled back, his face serious. But we still have a question to answer, he said softly. If I'm not the father, then who is? Sophia lowered her gaze, her heart pounding. She still didn't know who had come in her room that night. Benjamin kissed the top of her head. I'm going to find out, he said. Whoever did this will pay for what they've done. Days passed as Benjamin quietly investigated. He questioned neighbors, teachers, and anyone who might know something. But every lead ended in nothing. The truth remained out of reach. One evening, after another day of no answers, there was a knock at the door. Victoria opened it to find Noah standing there. Noah, Sophia whispered, surprised. Noah stepped inside, his face flushed. I just got back yesterday. I didn't know about the baby until now. As soon as I found out, I came here. Sophia's heart raced. You didn't know? She asked. No, Noah said. My family left town the morning after your party. I didn't hear anything. If I'd known, I would have come back sooner. Noah looked at Victoria and Marcus, his voice steady but filled with regret. I need to tell you the truth about that night. Sophia and I were drinking. We had too much. I helped her to her room, then left to check on the party. Later, I went back to check on her. That's when it happened. We were both drunk, and I didn't force her. It just happened. The room was silent. Sophia's hands trembled as she remembered how blurry that night was. Noah's words hung in the air. Victoria's voice trembled. You did this? You're responsible for this? Marcus's reaction was instant. His fists clenched. You took advantage of my daughter while she was drunk. No, Noah said quickly. We were both drunk. I didn't take advantage of her. I love Sophia. I always have. Sophia's voice broke through. Mama, Papa, please. I love him. We didn't mean for this to happen, but I don't want to do this alone. Victoria's stern face softened as she looked at her daughter. You say you love her, she said to Noah. But love isn't carelessness. You left her to deal with this alone? Noah's face filled with guilt. I didn't know. But now that I do, I'm here. I'm not running away. I want to take responsibility. Benjamin stepped closer to Noah. You think you can just walk in and fix everything? Noah stood nervously in front of the house. He had made a big mistake in the past and hurt Layla's family, but he wanted to make things right. This isn't something you can just fix, Noah, said Marcus, Layla's dad, his voice angry. You caused a lot of pain to this family. I know I did, Noah replied quietly, his voice full of sadness. I'm sorry. I'm not here to undo what happened. I'm here because I love Layla and our baby. I'm ready to take care of them. I'm 18 now, and I'm not afraid of this responsibility. Marcus's face turned red with anger. He grabbed Noah by the shirt and pushed him toward the door. You think you can just show up and act like nothing happened? Benjamin shouted. You hurt my daughter. You can't just say you're sorry and expect everything to be fine. Noah stumbled but didn't fight back. He stood tall and looked at Benjamin with steady eyes. I understand you're angry, Noah said calmly, but I'm not leaving. Not until we figure this out. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Evelyn, Layla's mom, opened it. Noah's parents were standing there with worried faces. We need to talk, Noah's dad said seriously. Benjamin let them inside, though he still looked angry. Noah's mom spoke first. We're very sorry, she said, her voice shaking. We didn't know what was happening between Noah and Layla. We didn't know about the baby. But now we do, and we want to help. Benjamin crossed his arms. And how exactly do you plan to help? He asked sharply. Noah's dad replied. Noah loves Layla and wants to be a good father to the baby. We want to work together to find a way to make things right for both families. Layla sat quietly on the couch, her hands in her lap. She hadn't said much since Noah returned. She felt a mix of relief and worry. Suddenly, the sound of a baby crying came from upstairs. It was Leo, Layla and Noah's baby. I'll get him, Layla said softly. She hurried upstairs and returned with the baby in her arms. The room grew quiet as everyone looked at Leo. Can I hold him? Noah asked, his voice trembling. Layla hesitated, then nodded. She carefully handed the baby to Noah. Leo stopped crying the moment Noah held him. The little baby looked up at Noah with big, curious eyes. He stopped crying, Evelyn said, surprised. Noah's eyes filled with tears as he looked at his son. Hi, buddy, Noah said softly. I'm your dad. Leo reached out his tiny hand and touched Noah's cheek, letting out a happy giggle. Seeing Noah with the baby melted some of the anger in Evelyn and Marcus's hearts, but the hurt wasn't gone yet. You can visit Leo, Evelyn said firmly, but that doesn't mean we're okay with you being in Layla's life. Not yet. You'll have to prove yourself to us. I will, Noah said, determination in his voice. From that day, Noah started visiting Layla and Leo regularly. He arrived early every morning to help take care of the baby. He changed diapers, fed Leo, and rocked him to sleep. Slowly, Evelyn and Benjamin began to see Noah differently. They noticed how gentle and caring he was with their grandson. One day, Leo got very sick. He had a high fever and wouldn't stop crying. Layla and her parents were terrified. Noah quickly took charge. We need to take him to the hospital, Noah said, holding Leo close. He drove Layla and the baby to the hospital as fast as he could. At the hospital, Noah stayed by Layla's side the entire time. He held her hand and comforted her while the doctors took care of Leo. Layla's parents watched from the doorway, seeing how Noah stayed strong for Layla when she needed him most. After a few days, Leo started to feel better, and they brought him home. Benjamin sighed as he watched Noah care for the baby. He's proven himself, hasn't he? Benjamin said quietly to Evelyn. Evelyn nodded, her eyes softening. Over time, Noah became part of their family. One day, Noah asked Benjamin and Evelyn for a private talk. I love Layla and Leo with all my heart, Noah said. I want to marry Layla, but I need your blessing first. Benjamin looked at Noah for a long time. Then he nodded. If you promise to take care of them, you have my blessing, Benjamin said. I promise, Noah said. That evening, with both families gathered, Noah got down on one knee and held Layla's hand. Layla, will you marry me? He asked. Tears filled Layla's eyes as she smiled. Yes, she said softly. Everyone cheered as Noah and Layla hugged each other tightly. It had been a hard journey, but they had found their way back to each other and become stronger together. Now, they were ready to start a new chapter as a family full of love and hope. If you enjoyed this story and would like to see more content like it, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. By subscribing, you'll stay updated on all our latest, inspiring, and heartwarming stories and have the opportunity to engage with our growing community. Additionally, I would love to hear your thoughts and feedback in the comment section below. Thank you for your support, and I look forward to sharing more captivating narratives with you.